However, they can be quite steady once they work out or discover a system they enjoy and that isn't too much effort, you see. They're not into high energy activity, but will happily watch others praise and worship vigorously. They'll happily watch it. Don't force them to participate or they may quietly disappear. So, you know, when you're all sort of having a great time praising God and going through your aerobic praises and so forth, you know, they're sort of just saying, oh, that's great, isn't it? Really, we had a great praise time today. And if you had a video of that particular scene, you would have seen them sitting there watching everybody and, you know, just enjoying watching everybody. They're great couch potatoes.
Look like they're enjoying it.
Well, they don't let on that they're enjoying it because that might take too much effort. All right. Aren't you going to sit over there all the time?
I just thought you'd do devotions because you're better at that.
All right, now we're better at devotions.
Yeah, well, actually you are.
More devoted, am
I? We're on to relationships.
Yes,
Each temperament will approach their relationships with a different agenda. Trouble looms when a person assumes people will relate to them the way they themselves will relate to others. Okay, the sanguine isn't too worried about the longevity of the relationship. Sanguines are really funny. They'll come up to you and you feel so important to them and they'll bubble up all over you. And how are you? I haven't seen you for ages. And you think, I've got a friend, you know. But then they'll go and do the same thing to someone else and drop you completely and just go and bubble all over somebody else and you know, forget your face next time I see you.
We're at a camp and sanguines hate being interrupted. We're at this camp and the visiting speaker was chatting most intensely with this young lady, and all of a sudden behind this young lady a young guy walked that he really wanted to catch up with, and it's just like he saw this young fellow walk past behind and he just went like that, and he just in the middle of the sentence he stopped and just went off, and this choleric young lady said,
But that's what sanguines will do, yeah. Friendship is often a momentary experience. They can drop a friend without even realising it and don't even realise they've caused an offence. It's just that someone else has come along and momentarily caught their attention. If you have a look down the bottom, you'll see there's a footnote there. Footnotes. My melancholy husband. The sanguine is often accused of being shallow, frivolous and superficial because of this. And they'll follow where the fun is. You know, if there's a group of people having an uproarious time at a table where there's a lot of laughter and stuff, and the table where the sanguine's at's pretty quiet and nothing too much exciting happening, they will leave the table and go and sit with the others. It's a terrible thing to do, isn't it, dear?
It's disgusting. I took Liz out for dinner one night, and we were sitting in this restaurant, you know, we didn't know anybody else in the place, and just having a nice little quiet dinner by ourselves. And then this table of people were having this uproarious time, and I could see that Liz's eyes were going. And I was trying to have a very intimate conversation with her.
Suddenly you just think your eyes are glazing over, Liz. You're not really here, are you? I said, I'm over at that table having all that fun. Why are they having all that fun and I'm not having fun? I have actually gone to a table of strangers and joined them because I have more fun. Okay.
Well, I do like solitude sometimes.
Cholerics frequently make friends of convenience. See, they will use people to reach their goals because their goal is more important. All right?
They're goal-orientated people.
They're prone to be manipulative. They'll use people for their own ends and you'll end up feeling used and you will resent it. They look for others like themselves with whom they can learn to reach greater levels of achievement and success. They do have some lifelong friendships, but they find unfruitful relationships irksome. If they get in the way of their goals, then they'll just drop you because the goal is the important thing. Get the job done. The melancholy is looking for a few intimate friends. Rob said this to you before that, a friend is chosen very, very careful, and then they're a friend for life. Okay, melancholy's friends will need to be able to cope with the melancholy's mood swings and the intensity of their emotions and feelings. Melancholies tend to be very intense. We'll talk more about that later. A melancholy...
It's not wrong, it's just different. Some of you have come up against melancholies that are intense and you sort of feel, don't want to get too close to that, None of you felt that way? Really, it's not wrong. It's just different. You've got to understand it's different. God created those people like that.
One of the things I find hard about melancholies, though, is that they have this hidden set of rules that they have for relationships. And, if you get friendly with a melancholy, you think you're going okay, but you've broken one of these rules and they're unwritten and unspoken. You don't even know you broke it. And the rules keep changing even, so you never really quite... And you've upset them terribly because you've missed one of these rules that you're sort of supposed to have known that nobody told you.
Yeah. It's terrible, isn't it?
Okay. The phlegmatic, he'll make acquaintances, but he's also very selective about who he actually takes on as friends. They choose deliberately because their friends have to come up to their standard of expectations. So they're a bit like melancholy in that sense. They can be cruel and teasing just to test the strength of their commitment to the relationship, and very calculating. A phlegmatic can often be very sarcastic. They've got a particular sense of humour. I could walk into a room and hear a phlegmatic make a remark, and I'd know instantly just by one sentence that they've said that they're got strong phlegmatic tendencies. When we say they're a phlegmatic, understand that they've also got the other three as well.
Yeah.
It's just that they're
It's like if you do a bar graph, they've got all of those things. Or if you do a pie graph, there's each of the four temperaments are present in a person's life. It's just that one or two temperaments are much stronger usually than all four. They're not just even. Like you just don't divide the circle into four equal portions. You've got a dominance in certain areas.
Right, so the phlegmatic, who's dominantly phlegmatic, has this kind of dry sense of humour. They're very funny, but they'll say it with a very deadpan expression on your face. And if you don't realise that they're being funny, you think they're being serious by the look on their face, but they're dropping all these sort of little sarcastic and cynical one-liners that actually can be quite funny. They really have got a great sense of humour, but it's kind of a bit of a tearing one at times. It's sort of like they observe life and they see your deficiencies and they can pull it out and say it in a sarcastic and cynical way.
Make you feel about this big.
Yeah. They're still very nice.
Spirit control, they can be very nice. All right, in the area of employment, each temperament will approach employment from their own blend of preferences. So you're not just, two phlegmatics can be quite different because they're secondary, tertiary, and the fourth gift or the fourth temperament can be a different mix entirely than the other person. And so you're a blend. This is why it is essential to understand yourself before going to a job interview. Once you know your temperament blend, you'll see many jobs are just not you, because they don't allow you to be yourself. Jobs you'll find fulfilling are those that suit your temperament blend. This way you can adapt yourself to suit a wider range of employment opportunities that might otherwise have been thought impossible. Sometimes people tend to think that because they've been trained in a certain area, that's the only area that they'll ever be able to work in. But if you understand your temperament, you'll find that there are other jobs that particular temperament will work well in. And so you open up other avenues of service, both in the natural realm and in the church as well, in the spiritual realm, to serve the Lord.
So you can imagine from what we've said about sanguines that they need lots of excitement and people around them. They don't work well in an office on their own or out on a job where there's not a lot of other people around, because they come alive when people are there. So they're good at people skills, relationship skills, getting on with people, making people feel special and important. So public relations, anything like that's marvellous. Sales, they could sell just about anything to you because they're so enthusiastic about things.
Refrigerator to an Eskimo.
Yeah. But they're not high task oriented product. So that kind of person. They won't, achieve a lot of goals where they have to work independently on their own and put a huge output.
Not good personal assistants.
I remember we'd read books by Florence Littauer. Have any of you read books by Florence Littauer on the personalities? They're excellent books. And she was saying how a hairdresser came to her and said, what kind of person should I have for a hairdresser? She managed a salon. And Florence said, a sanguine is definitely the best for a hairdresser. And she said, because they chat with you, about absolutely nothing and make you feel special. If you've got a really good hairdresser, they'll talk to you about, remember, who you were and what your job was and all that sort of thing. And they'll get rave on and on about absolutely nothing the whole time they're cutting your hair, and they can be quite entertaining. But of course, what happens is they forget to put the hair tools in the steriliser and clean up the floor around them and borrow things from other people's workstations and don't return them. So Florence said to this manager, she said, you'll understand that those deficiencies, so it's just better to hire someone else to come along behind and clean up after them, because they're so gifted that people will go there because they feel loved. So you'll get a lot more clients coming in, and you can pay someone else to clean up after them, because you can't expect them to be ordered.
Good in every area.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all right for one,
so
number
have a
two.
good conversation. Okay. The choleric needs goals and freedom to interpret them. They love to be in control. They want the big picture straight away, but they're not really good on the details.
They need somebody else who like a phlegmatic or a melancholy, who doesn't mind sort of dealing with the details alongside of them as a lieutenant, to be able to fulfil those details for them, so that they can just get on with the big picture.
We've got a son who's a choleric, and he, when he was 16 or 15, he went to work at Safeway as a trolley boy, and he was working at school, doing schoolwork, but he was just working it out of hours to get money for stuff. And so he went on Saturdays and Friday nights and Saturdays and worked there, and he was what they call a red coat. They wear their red aprons and run around and get trolleys and things. And before long, he was in charge of them. There were 26 of these red coats running around, and he became the chief red coat. And it was a position that never even existed before. That the manager could see that he just didn't even fulfil just his own goals, but he was fulfilling all the goals of all the others, and it just came to the top. That's what cholerics do, and they can remember things. And he'd have a guy come to him and say, "What do I do next?" And Bretland, and he'd go, "Well, you've got to do this, this, and this." And then the guy'd come back and say, "I've finished," and he'd say, "Well, have you done this, this, and this?" "Oh no, I just did this one," And he'd have these 26 guys that he'd have listed off 3 or 4 jobs that each one had to do, and he was remembering everybody's jobs, and one kid couldn't remember their own.
You give 4 jobs to each person.
That's the kind of capacity that cholerics have. Yeah. Great. Anyway, then he ended up being trained as a manager. Okay, the melancholy needs to be needed. Systems and a place for everything is important. Time to fulfil every detail to their fastidious standard of perfection is absolutely important. You better read this, lovey. I get a bit sarcastic.
That's choleric.
Well, they would become disillusioned with the slipping standards. Yeah. They're meticulous with things that needs close attention. Excellence is a word they esteem.
Have you noticed that a lot of musicians talk about excellence? Have you noticed that?
You're getting the timing right there. It goes duh, not duh. So, we enjoyed singing it, didn't we?
And the Bible doesn't talk about excellence. The Bible talks of excellent heart or excellent spirit. And that's more to do with attitude than it has to do with production.
We used to have this melancholy pianist actually, and he'd go, "We've got to get the timing right of this song," and Rob and I kind of go, "Oh." and he'd say, "Now we've got to sing the right notes and everything." And he got this song off absolutely perfect. And then the songwriter of that song was John Sagond. Yes. Yeah. Came to the church, and he said, "Oh, let's sing such and such a song." "Oh, we got this one right," And he's going, "No, you don't sing that note there." And Don, our meticulous pianist, is going, "But that's the note in the music." And John's saying, "No, but you don't sing that note there. Yeah, it goes like this." And he just did this other version.
The version of that day.
Yeah. Right.
Actually, years before we had the Springvale music, or the whatever you call it these days, Christian resource music. People just had their own songbooks, and we had a lot of people writing songs. And we had this young fellow, we got him to sing into the tape recorder the song exactly as it was supposed to be sung, and then we got somebody to write the notes down, and we made the music books, and then. After we did all that work, we got up and we got each person to teach their own song, and they didn't even sing their own songs the same way that they'd sung them onto the tape. because of that creative thing. And so there were two parts of them, one that wanted it to be meticulous and one that wanted to be creative. And those two parts were fighting within that person. There must be a lot of melancholies here, I think.
Don't know whether they're prepared to own up one.
It's very quiet.
Okay, the phlegmatic, on the other hand, we're talking about employment really. I don't know how we got onto pianists, but anyway, wants security and needs to be trusted, even though he seldom trusts others without first testing them to their limit. He is a hard worker and has a great capacity, but he doesn't always let on that, you know. He seldom gets flustered. Phlegmatic's emotional level is like this, you know. They don't have highs and they don't have lows, and they can handle a lot of stress without getting flustered. They just keep on that. They're usually very easy to get on with.
All right, well, I think we'll just break here.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock.
And have morning tea, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Matter?
All right. But am I a leader? A lot of people say that only certain temperaments can be a leader.
Video guy said we had to stand closer together. He doesn't know how little we get on with each other.
Many people wonder if they're cut out for leadership, especially if they're in leadership and having a hard time. If you're in leadership and you know the people that you're leading are sort of going in all directions and you can't hold them together, you may wonder whether you're cut out for leadership. Leadership is as much a learnt as it is inbred. It's a learnt habit, or it can be also inbred. Some people just seem to be born leaders, while other people learn to be leaders. And so it's possible for you to be a born leader and for others to be leaders who have learnt to become leaders. Those who say that leaders are born wipe out a large portion of competent leadership that came to be leaders through the school of hard knocks. Who's been to Knox College? Yeah. Each temperament can be a leader. Their style of leadership will vary, but they will be able to lead so long as they exercise leadership qualities. It's important for us to understand that each temperament will lead in a unique way. And as they lead, they will lead in structuring their team differently. And I don't know whether you've ever heard lectures on teamwork, but everybody's got their own idea of what a team is. Some people say, Choleric, they say a team is a group of people that do what I say. The other extreme is a team of people working together and where there's no leader at all. There's no one that's more important than the other. And so they're two extremes. And in between there's a whole range of different ways of leading. And so it's very important for us not to become critical of another person's leadership style. But if you have to be a leader and you become the, shall we say, the number one leader in that team, then you have to develop a style that suits you. Otherwise, you will be squeezed into a mould. In Philip's translation, it says, I think it's in Philippians, where it said, don't let the world squeeze you into its mould. Romans, oh, well, you know, what's the matter? In the volume of the book, Jesus said that. It says, in Philip's translation, Romans 12, 1 and 2, don't let the world squeeze you into its mould, and otherwise you end up getting mouldy. But you really got to watch that you don't aren't made to conform to other people's way of doing things. So it's important. What are you saying to me, Liz?
Just shush a minute. I mean, well, you just talk among yourselves and say what a nice day it is and how great the speakers are. They don't have to do the questionnaire here. They do that in the workshop.
Yes, but we need to talk about it though. Yeah.
Talk about it in the workshop.
All right, we'll talk about it in the workshop. See how easily we get along together?
As long as he does what I say, there is no problem.
Who's leading? All right, so each temperament can be a leader. decision making is one of the prime abilities needed by leaders. The ability to bite the bullet when needed. And some temperaments find that more difficult than others because biting the bullet isn't much fun for a sanguine, and so they'd rather get somebody else in the team to do the bullet biting.
Because you want everybody to love you when you're a sanguine, and you don't like doing anything that stops them loving you.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes!
So, that's why when you create a team, it's good to have different temperaments on the team, so that you can get the people who've got this "it's got to be done right" sort of thing. You can say, well, go and do it right. I release you to do it right. I ordain you. I anoint you. and they feel fulfilled because they can go and do it right, and while you're off doing something else that's more fun or whatever, that isn't so much effort. Anyway, the choleric says, well, it's got to be done, and usually bites the bullet. Decisions can be made corporately or individually. That doesn't mean to say it by a corporation, but it means together. You can, a group of people, some people love working in a team where there's no one more in leadership than they are. They're all equal. And that can work. But don't try and reproduce it if you're not that sort of person. Don't try and reproduce it if you're not that sort of person. You see, you've got to allow for the fact that each of us is uniquely different. Some people can work in that way, but some people just boil over if they had to work in that way, because sooner or later somebody's going to be doing something that they're not happy with, and so they want everybody to do it their way. That's of course the cholerics, and so on.
Their way is the best way.
Is that right?
Yep.
The choleric temperament is strong at making decisions and is most likely to lead because of its desire to be in charge. A Choleric's leadership team is a group of people who fulfill delegated tasks. Really, it's not delegated, it's what we call assigned. A choleric assigns tasks. He says, this is what I want you to do, go and do it. So there's no room for you to create after your own kind in that particular environment. You're given a specific task to fulfill, and as a result, if you don't do it their way, you haven't done the job. It's getting awful quiet around here, isn't it?
They're remembering all the times the cholerics have bruised them, probably. Ouch! Yes, that was what that was.
So there's a difference between assignment and delegation. Delegation, I believe, is a much freer word that allows the person, you say, this is the job, this is the result that we want. Now what you do between now and then, so long as you get that result, is your business. It's up to you. You can create how you're going to do that. I release you to do that. Delegation says, this is the job and this is how I want you to do it. Step 1, step 2, step 1.